All right. So we'll call to order the Thursday, February 20th, 2025 meeting of the Bethlehem Revitalization and Improvement Authority. We'll start with the roll call.
Ms. Taggart.
Here.
Mr. Philippos.
Here.
Mr. Andres.
Here.
And Ms. Collins.
Here. Okay. I don't believe we have anyone for public comment, so I will move on to item number 4, the approval of the minutes from the December 5th, 2024 meeting. So those are included in the packet. Did anybody have any questions or comments about the minutes?
No.
So I will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
No, I'll second.
All right. And no discussion. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So it passes 3-0. Okay. Next item, we have the treasurer's report. Mr. Philippos?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you guys all got a copy of the treasurer's report, and we have a healthy cash balance, but I want to point out the payment to the city will be expensed in 2025. It's $129,000. That's what we owe them for administrative expenses, so that's not showing up here. So that money's going to be coming out. So just keep that in mind. And then I have a note here that the audit is close to being completed. To date, no issues or surprises so far, but we don't have the audit report, but as soon as we do, we'll go over that in this forum. And unless anyone has any questions, I submit the treasurer's report.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay. So then I will accept a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll move that.
Okay, I'll second. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes 3-0.
Okay.
All right. Next, we have old business. We have one item here, and that is related to the revolving line of credit. We've talked about this in previous meetings. The board previously approved the creation of an RLF to potentially fund and support tenant fit outs for projects within the CRIZ or tenant projects. We are still working on the guidelines, and we'll bring those back to the board. We don't have something for that now, but we are just taking the initial step of establishing the line of credit. So I believe we then have a resolution in the packet with language that would authorize the opening of that account. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to, I guess, pass the resolution?
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution as presented in the board packet.
I'll second that.
Okay. And any discussion on that motion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passes 3-0.
Nice.
All right. Now for the most exciting part of the meeting, new business. So you saw in your packet, we do have a request for CRIZ qualification from Mr. Noble. This is for the Wilbur Mansion expansion project. We do have representatives from the applicant here to present on the project. But just as context, so we're looking at an application for a project that was not part of our initial 2013 application and was not currently on CRIZ designated land. So it would be, our role would be to look at qualification of this project, assigning it available acreage, and then we would submit, if we approved, we would submit that to the Commonwealth for their review and approval. So with that, I will recognize the applicants.
Hi, Seth Tipton from Fleury Perucci. Appreciate everyone coming out this afternoon for this application. I think Ms. Collins summarized it very well. We have an existing CRIZ recipient pursuant to a funding agreement, NIP Wilbur LLC, and its principal, John Noble, who I'll turn this over to in a moment. we are simply requesting that Bria start the process to certify this additional acreage for an expansion of 7 hotel rooms at 251 Cherokee Street. NIP Wilbur has previously been qualified as a CRIS recipient as a brand new entity in the state, so it doesn't bring any new baseline into the zone or otherwise impact the zone from a larger perspective. And we would simply request that Bria approve the resolution that's in the package, which would initiate that certification process. And then hopefully, if and when this board passes that we could move to the prospect of beginning to amend the existing funding agreement with NIP Wilbur to simply add this property into that existing funding agreement. Unless there's any questions from me, I'll turn it over to John, who can talk a little bit about the project and the need for the funding.
Again, thank you for coming. It's terrible out there, and I
Yeah.
appreciate everyone making the effort. You've got a packet that I sent with a bunch of information. I did bring just a quick black and white photo of the building. I don't know if you're familiar with the actual building that we're talking about, 251. If you'd like me to, I can hand that out just so you can maybe visualize it a little bit.
I think I did include
The
printout.
street drive-by?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
Got
good. I wanted to make sure you knew which building we were actually talking about. A little bit of history. I want to thank you for the prior approvals I got with the CRIS. I think we've probably done a pretty successful project with the Wilbur Mansion, creating a lot of jobs and creating hopefully a benefit that everyone in the city really appreciates. As part of the business model of a small hotel, I've actually learned a lot over the last 2 years. And one of the things I learned that was really important was the importance of rooms. We only have 9 hotel rooms right now. And the demand we get for events that require additional rooms that we can't supply has actually had us turn away some business. About a year ago, there was an opportunity to buy 251, which is the corner of 3rd and Cherokee. And you basically, when you see an opportunity, you have to seize upon it to potentially expand. So over the last year, we've been going through the potential of expansion with that property. I've been before the city and the zoning board to get all the approvals required to actually turn it into a 7 hotel extension of what we have, with actually on-site parking for over 7 cars too. So we're basically doing something that doesn't impact the neighborhood, which is what we try to do on everything I did along Cherokee Street. We're at the point right now with the current economic climate, with the cost of building, with, quite frankly, interest rates kind of going through the roof potentially, because we're all of our projects are probably seeing a major rate reset over the next 12 to 24 months. We got to the point where the initial numbers I was seeing were just not sustainable without some help along the lines of what we did with the Wilbur Mansion. So we looked at it from a business standpoint, where we would go. And at that point, I contacted the city to entertain some discussions on the possibility of including it in the CRIS. And we've put together a package which we hope gives you the information to make a decision. And I'm here today in case there's any kind of questions that you guys have with how it's going to be run or how it impacts our business. So I'll turn it over to you if there is some questions.
And I will just add, it's a project that is coming before the board, also with the sign off from the mayor. So, he's reviewed the project and was happy to support it coming before the board.
So John, did I understand you to say, like, you'll need a zoning change for that?
There was some zoning relief, which was in line with what I had done before with the Wilbur Mansion. The Sayre Mansion has the same relief. And we actually made sure that the relief was kept inside the lot itself by adding actually on-site parking, not street parking. So the reliefs I was looking for mirrored the grants that had already been done for the Wilbur Mansion, similar to what has done with the Sayre Mansion. So it's very characteristic of the neighborhood. And then at this point, probably knock on wood, but we always communicate with all the neighbors, and we have had no negative feedback from the original project at all. Everyone's been really happy. And when this property came up, it was literally a property that afforded us enough real estate to self-contain everything and not impact any of the parking, which parking is the major problem in that area. And this doesn't impact that at all because it's all internalized on the site.
Thank you. And it sounds like this will strengthen the project that we've already invested in.
It's one of those things that we have to do something to provide a service that our customers are basically requesting.
Mhm. I don't have any other questions.
So where's the increment coming from?
Or the acreage.
Correct.
So
Acreage.
we currently have 1.3721 acres available that are banked and not committed to any projects. This project, I believe, is looking for something very, very minimal, 0.1515 acres. So although we have under an acre and a half, we need much less than that for this specific project.
And then I'm flipping through this, like what's the increment we think it's going to generate?
So if the applicant did provide the projections. I don't know if you want to walk through or sort of talk
Let me just do
through.
this off the top of my head, or do you want me to go over the actual spreadsheet that I had given you?
If you don't mind, maybe just giving some top line comments on the
So-
generation.
So top line is, we anticipate on a low end, we're going to probably generate somewhere in the $300,000 worth of hotel room revenue. There's going to be a marginal increment of also catering associated with that. There's a lot of overlap on employment, but because of the additional house cleaning, check-in, and possible unique catering opportunities, we have a slight employment increase. I would guess we'd probably be somewhere in the 2 employees. There will not be an employee on site per se all the time, because it's not going to be that type of check-in. But we'll probably generate another couple of employees. So you have the employee benefit, you have the income, which we're projecting $300,000 on the low end right now. Hotel rooms have a 10% tax on top of them. You have 6 with the state and you have 4 with the county. And then we'll have wages, business privileges, and income taxes on top of that.
Compared to the existing project, would you say this is sort of doubling what you're currently making, or a little bit?
No, it's going to be
much
significantly
smaller than that?
small.
Yeah.
So right now, we're anticipating a debt structure of somewhere in the $1 million range.
Okay.
We have we started with 6.8 on the other project. So literally, if you do that simple math, it's 1/7 of what we have going on right now. But because it is the high-end lucrative part of a CRIS benefit with a total of 10%, and again, this is off the top of my head, and we anticipate a lot of growth, but you're going to see a 15 to 20% growth in CRIS benefit on this end of it. Where it really helps us, and which is not as measurable, is the fact that right now we're turning away events because we don't have on-site rooms. It literally, it breaks our heart when we have to do that, but there are a lot of people that want a wedding and they want to be able to have their entire wedding party there. When you only have 7 rooms, you want to try to keep it as consolidated as possible. We also have, what this does for us is it allows us to do a turnover. So if we have a wedding party that comes in and does a Friday wedding, and then we have a Saturday wedding, it gives us the ability to float wedding parties, because you'll have people that want to stay and not get out of a room right at 10 o'clock. So you can do a makeover for another wedding. Gives you the ability to slide, because we can, with the additional rooms, we can literally do a full wedding party at 251 and a full wedding party at the Wilbur Mansion. And that basically accommodates the entire immediate family of a wedding party, so that they don't feel like they're getting kicked out at the end of their wedding.
Yeah, I mean, John, from my point of view, like your original project, I was very supportive of, because you're taking a building that no one's going to be able to do anything with. And this building, I mean, I know where it is. It seems like it would have some other uses besides what you want to do for it. you know, so in my mind, I'm like, is it really Chris worthy in the sense that, you know, could someone come in and do something else with the building? And I appreciate the fact that it helps your business. But my question to you is, who else has applied for increment within the city? I mean, like,
So we don't have any other active applications for acreage. You know, constantly we're sort of, you know, hearing maybe some potential here and there. I do know that we have at least one additional application that will be coming within the next probably month.
okay,
Similarly, it is for less than half an acre. So it's still within the amount that we currently have. And I'll also note the 1.37 that we do have available. That does not include the outstanding 1.07 that is committed to the hotel. And also, you know, had not included in there, there had been some previous discussions with the former mayor, with the folks who are doing the Goodman project. And so I think they had also contemplated coming forward with another 0.28 acres.
okay.
So,
I wasn't doing the math. So
yeah,
so-
I
so
apologize.
where does that leave us with acreage if we?
If we don't count those, so that leaves us with 2.6 roughly.
So any project within the city currently that may or may not come before us, we have enough acreage to accommodate them all.
Of those that I am aware of, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I can't read it.
I couldn't read your spreadsheet, John. I don't know if that was
Sizing
by
probably.
design or.
No, that was-
No.
Probably in how I converted it from a spreadsheet to a PDF. So I
Oh,
apologize
that's
about
okay.
that.
Not that mine's a whole lot more readable, but did you have a question on one of them?
I can't read it. I mean, so I have a question on the entire. I'm just curious that you're saying you're going to generate X amount in revenue. How much increment would be going towards the project, and how much would be coming to the city, or did we not get to that?
We have not. We haven't
Okay.
gotten to the point of, you know, we as a board talking about what a funding percentage would be.
Okay. So what are we looking to do today?
So what we are looking to do is, because this would be an initial qualification, if the board wants to qualify this project, we would be, and I think we have language in the resolution, but I think what we would be,
Resolution in the packet.
Yeah, we would-
Essentially, it indicates your approval of the project and it allows the submission of the project application to the Commonwealth.
Okay.
The amendment to the funding agreement that was discussed by council would have to, that'd come back before you.
Okay.
But that's because, as Laura said, this was not part of obviously the original
Yeah.
approval, then it has to get approved first.
Okay.
and you know, I wasn't around at the time. I recall you had come with an initial project and some things had changed over time. You know, but so it sounds like this is in many ways just an additional, not change, but it's an expansion, as you say, of what you've already done and what we've authorized as a board. And you know, I think you've kind of adapted over the years as things have changed in your external environment to make the business work and to make the original project work. So, you know, I view that as a positive. I'll also say, you know, when we had the tour with Secretary Brown a year or so ago, I recall that their folks were incredibly impressed with just how diligent you've been with reporting and getting everybody to do their reporting. And I think, you know, from my perspective, that's really important and helpful to make sure that everybody, including, you know, the authority and the city, are getting all the dollars back that are owed. And that can be a challenge sometimes. So definitely appreciate that you've been really excellent in that respect.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Just if you don't mind, just one little bit of tidbit of financial information for you, John. This is a little bit more for you to understand what's currently going on. So when we initially did the Wilbur Mansion project, okay, we locked up funding at 4%. Okay. So right now, the interest payments we're dealing with are in the $280,000 a year range. We generated $185,000 worth of CRIZ last year. When I go to my reset, if things don't change literally drastically, because I'm always in contact with our local banks to understand where things are going, the reset rate is going to be in the 6.5 to 7% range. So that 2.5% increase on the $6.5 million worth of debt translate to basically wiping out the entire CRIZ benefit we received last year and treading water. We would be literally losing almost $185,000 worth of income to offset the expenses of that business. So, and this is not unique to me because of the nature of financing on commercial stuff, you see resets, and what we're really starting to see is a lot of resets that are going to happen over the next 12 to 24 months that are just going to rock a lot of business models that are related to this. So I understand where you're getting at from a standpoint of what does it generate and everything else, but just the business model is getting kind of brutal. I don't anticipate in 15 months I'm going to see a whole lot of interest rate change. I wish I could crystal ball it and say, yeah, I'm going to be able to refinance at the 4% rate I have right now. But I'm really rolling up my sleeves thinking I'm probably going to get crushed and refinance at 6.5 to 7%, or have to come to the table with millions of dollars to even be able to do it. So it's just a challenging business model right now.
Yeah, that's understood. I'm just like, I'm looking at the building, from my point of view, and someone could buy it and go in there, whereas all the other projects we did were undeveloped land, buildings that no one would touch because of the nature of the building. I mean, that's my concern. So then, hypothetically, we approve this. I don't want people coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, I had this project that was, similar, but if I would have gotten the funding, I would have done it." You know what I'm saying? And so my concern is the ones in the pipeline, if we have enough acreage to satisfy those, so we're not, because I would compare it on how, the value of the projects in my mind, not to make light of your project, but, we already gave you increment and now you're asking for more. So I'm just curious, like, do we have an application process? Is like, hey, I want to buy a building on the south side. I want to put something in it. Could I get CRIZ increment for it? It seems like we're picking and choosing, and if no one's applied, then that's fine. I'm fine with the project. But
Yeah, if others came and did not have acreage on a particular parcel and said, I want to make the case, I wouldn't view the folks in the city and DCED as a barrier to bring something before the board. So if anybody comes and says, I've got a project, whether it meets the criteria you're describing or not, I would still give this board the opportunity to weigh in on that and not, pick and choose what comes before you. So, as I said, like the projects that I know of are the ones that would still be within the available acreage that we have. And I personally, just my personal opinion, I'm just one voting member here, but I do think the fact that this is tied to an existing project, for which it is a benefit to the authority for increment to continue to be generated and for the, project to be successful. I do think that's a factor, maybe not a, determining factor, but it's at least one that in my mind is relevant.
That was my point earlier. I feel like we've already invested in this. And if John's learned more and this business model is, needs to be tweaked a bit, and this allows him to do that, to continue being successful, that's kind of where my head is too.
okay.
Any other points that you all would like to make?
No, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Well, at this time, then I suppose if anybody would like to make a motion, I'm happy to entertain one.
So it would be a motion for the resolution that we have in the packet.
That would be, so resolution 2025-2
Mhm.
would be a resolution to approve if you were so inclined.
Yep, I would be willing to make that motion.
Okay. I could second the motion. All right. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes 3-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm always available if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to use me as a poster boy of what's required for stuff for other developers. Seriously, I don't mind sharing information.
Yeah, we're like, your spreadsheets are so organized.
They're a little small though.
Yeah.
I
Again, that
got
was
ti-
my fault. I
got tired of
apologize.
those
John's eyes.
I can relate. Don't worry.
All right. That's the end of our new business then. Mr. Andres, did you have anything for the solicitor's report?
Just there's some things working on in the back burner. We've had some like conference calls, et cetera, with regards to the ISRP grant for the SGO building. I think the Wingstop, I think we had reported back in December that we anticipate that perhaps going to closing, but there was emails about that in the past few weeks. So both of those are moving ahead, but nothing to report besides working on it.
So what does that mean? Like they're open, Wingstop. So what didn't close then?
The funding agreement was never finalized, so for them to get the increment.
Thanks. Oh,
So we had approved the split, like the execution of the agreement. We had
Correct.
approved the split, all
Just
the
hasn't- they have to
relevant
pay the
terms.
fees.
They just have to.
They just have to pay the fees and then sign the documents. Essentially, is the only thing that's outstanding.
And you've been in touch with their
We
attorney on that.
we sent an email to their council last week.
problem there. Yes.
So I
I don't
didn't bring
think
it up
so.
to
Yeah.
suggest it was a problem.
Okay. They were doing pretty well on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, they must have.
Oh, gosh, it was packed. I just drove by, I wasn't in.
And that was it.
I fear they're going to put the Wing King out of business.
Well, I found out on the way over because I came down that way and passed them and I forgot that they were there. I was like, I wonder how that's going to work out.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing else.
All right. I don't have much either for the chairperson's report, other than I believe Denise put in everyone's packets the statement of financial interest, and she has asked that everybody complete that and return it to her.
So what is the status of the hotel?
So
Don't they run out in May?
they do. So we just actually double checked today. We had approved the extension on May 19th, 2022 for 3 years. So we did receive correspondence from Mr. Haynes noting that he understands that he needs to come back and asking that he be put on an agenda so we can hear him in advance of the May deadline. If we'd like, we can ask him to come in, in March, if that's everybody's preference. Okay.
The fact that we don't have anybody, we don't have a need for the acreage right now makes me feel a little bit better about that.
Yeah. So if he comes in May, we will. I'm certain that we will have an application before then for another, 0.2, 0.3 acres. That's for the property next to the third and new building. So it's the building that is currently falling down, being held up by,
It's going to be part of the hotel.
it is going to be part of the hotel. So that's the High Hotel Group is doing that project. They have successfully used CRIS in Lancaster. They have a really successful project out there. So they're really familiar with CRIS. And it's a project that we're really excited about at the city. So I think that will be a good one for the board to entertain.
And how much acreage do they require?
Actually, you know what? 0.34. 0.34.
It's amazing.
Well, it's like not,
It's
it's never that big. So when you look
Yeah.
at how many acres it is, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And how large of a hotel are it's not even?
I should have checked this. It's around about 100 rooms, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Great. That's
Hotel
pretty
rooms.
good generator.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
All right.
So that's the end of my report. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 6th. If we have an application ready for that meeting, I anticipate we would have the meeting. If not, it might be the second one in March. But we
So we're
could,
definitely doing a March one.
we're most likely, I would say most likely doing a March one.
Okay.
The office, don't you?
Oh, really?
Not this time of year.
That's all right.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. And the meeting is adjourned.
Hey.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Chris is moving